Hi, welcome to Connecting the Dots, the podcast where we share our stories from the battlefield of consulting. Thank you for joining us on this very special third edition of our Christmas episode. I'm your host, Joyful Johnny Hill.
And I'm Poinsettia Pam Crozier.
Hey, I'm Cozy Kareem Jamal.
I'm Frosty Phil Gambling.
Hey, I'm Blissful Bruno Berizzo.
So we're back with another behind-the-scenes look at our ongoing projects with Santa and the Three Kings. They're actually interested in making a few other improvements to their app and some changes to their other systems. But we also just got out of a meeting with a prospective client who's interested in kicking off a similar project, just with a few minor differences. Let's get started. All right, so how are we feeling about these two meetings? We just got out of a conversation with Santa and the Three Kings. We were talking a little bit about how we can maybe up-level things with AI. They're seeing some of the things going on with ChatGPT and maybe also wanting to work on a few of their back-end systems, finding ways they can continue to differentiate themselves in the market, make sure they stay the market leader. A bunch of great things that they're interested in continuing to do there. So that was a good meeting. We'll probably have to, talk through some of how that went, where we want to go from here. But then what about that other meeting, the one with what was his name? Let's see, the Grinch. Yes, the Grinch. So he wanted to do something kind of similar, it seems like. So he also saw the case study that Santa helped us write for our website, kind of highlighting this project. He was very interested. He said he has ties to the energy industry, some coal resources that he's wanting to better allocate and distribute. He said something about making sure people get what they deserve. He said he has a very similar use case. He stressed that he doesn't think that he would be competing with Santa. I'm not quite sure if I believe that, honestly. I don't know. How are y'all feeling about that?
It was weird. He gave me a weird vibe the whole time. I mean, it seemed like he wants a lot of the same functionality, like getting lists of children and their behavior and how much has been distributed on the night of Christmas Eve. We really pried at, well, what, are you delivering presents? Is it the same kind of operation? And we really couldn't get the details on what is he doing once he, reaches the house. He really close up when we'd ask about that.
Well, I'm curious where he's getting his data from. Do he and Santa go to the same data service provider for child behavior and wish lists?
Well, I also was considering from the standpoint of a client list, do we need to be considering the NDA that we have with Santa and the Three Kings?
Right.
So where is our line? He did give me that same weird vibe, Phil. But where's that line? Do we need to go back? I mean, I can do that side as a side note, but just making sure that we can, one, do business with him, two, do we want to do business with him, and three, right, where is his data coming from?
Yeah, I was questioning his motives a little bit, more so than him wanting to have a killer product in the market. It seemed like he was more on, sort of an attack or malicious mode against Santa, right? He's trying to do something there. We don't know what exactly. But Christmas is all about the whole, red and green vibe. But I pretty much got a mostly green vibe from him. Maybe he's green with envy or something. I don't know. There's something just that came off not right about him.
So do we know where he's located? I'm not quite sure where he was.
I just know it's somewhere cold, but I don't know if anyone here knows.
It's on some kind of hill.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know who to ask about that.
Yeah, I don't know who either.
Yeah, who would know?
Do we know any contact that worked with him before, or any other trace that we can get?
He's kind of a loner from what he said. He doesn't have any investors or any, he's kind of bankrolling this all himself.
Yeah, you just mentioned
sure.
a dog, right?
Yeah.
Like Michael or Mr. Max, something like that. But yeah, no, it seems like a loner. Yeah, just thinking about what he was trying to do. Did you catch that requirement? We were talking about how to use ChatGPT and the power all these AIs and LLM solutions have now. And he's very interested in training an LLM based on letters to Santa and Santa's responses. He was kind of saying so he could kind of develop his own style, but it almost gave me the feeling well, could you use that to impersonate Santa?
Hmm.
Oh, so
And
And
he's
there's
I don't
some.
know about
training,
that.
he's training based on impersonation.
Hmm.
Is
Go
he
ahead, Grant.
expecting us to, figure out and intercept those replies?
Right.
Is he getting it from the data source? Because there's some PII in there too, so we can't just share that. And it's like kids, right? So under 13, special restrictions apply.
Hmm.
So you can't just
Yeah.
share that broadly. So there's
Like,
definitely some
I don't know if
questionable
he's
things going on here.
thinking because we work with Santa. There was a little bit of a kind of alluding to, can we just use the data we already have from working with Santa to then
Right.
train up his AI? So that, yeah, that, I mean, obviously is totally unethical. We can't do anything like that.
Right. I think it's one thing if someone comes to us and says, "Hey, I saw what you did over here. That's awesome. I also have an idea that's kind of similar." But if they're basically saying, "Hey, just rip off the thing you did for
Mhm.
this guy and do it for me too," that's where the concern comes in. So he didn't straight out come up and say that, but that's kind of seemed to be what he was alluding to. Like, "Hey, can you just like do me a favor here?"
Yeah, it's like when you start
Yeah.
connecting the dots, seems like you could put together something malicious and very anti-Christmas and anti-Santa Claus, right? I'm seeing a lot of red flags with this guy.
I
Yeah, I
feel
Yeah,
mean,
like
but
we
he's
need
that
to pass. Like, do we need to take this to a vote and say yes or no? But I'm feeling like without even checking an NDA that we could probably say that we need to pass given our other customers and given the proprietary
Well, and I
software
think I
and
think it's
knowledge that
worth
we have.
it might be worth going because I mean we do have a follow-up meeting with Santa,
Mm-hmm.
asking him if he's familiar with this other person, if they've done business together in the past, if that's a concern to him. It may be a situation where Santa's like, "Oh, I'm actually familiar with this guy. I'm actually, he has some novel ideas. Maybe we could partner." I don't know if either of them would be up for that, but I think contacting our current contact Santa would be good just to keep everything above board.
Kind of
I'm
proceed with
sure.
caution on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure our NDA and previous contracts have several clauses or Santa clauses in there that are preventing us from talking to this Mr. Green more without Santa's consent.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, I was thinking about what you described, Phil. That feature that he mentions about training an LLM on letters and responses. Probably that's something that Santa would like to have anyway. We
Mhm.
should probably ask him.
Yeah, that's a good comment because we did also Santa was saying he's interested in how he can leverage AI tools. Let's spend some time talking about that now that we know probably not going to be able to proceed with Mr. Grinch. Um, what are some of the takeaways from our meeting with Santa and how he's kind of wanting to see if he can up-level things with AI?
I mean, I think one of the biggest, besides making all the toys, one of the biggest workloads he has is like intaking all these letters and processing them and then getting responses out. Because Santa's likes to give everyone a personal touch to his responses, but obviously it's not realistic for the most
Hmm.
part. I think the elves write a lot of letters and he kind of
Mm-hmm.
just rubber stamps it, but I think he'd like to get a little more of his personality into it. So, that was kind of with the Grinch conversation. I think Bruno's kind of what you're alluding to, right? Like it does seem like he has access to his data. Could we train an LLM on that to help him at least generate drafts of letters or maybe the actual response to speed that process up?
Yeah, I was thinking something like that, or probably doing some kind of style transfer, just grabbing all the letters that he writes in the past and train something that can apply his style to the responses. So yeah, basically just use some kind of machine learning to speed up the response process.
I'm wondering
Is this
also if there are any avenues or opportunities where Santa could expand his current operation, and maybe start offering new services. Maybe he's leveraging AI to communicate to parents, "Hey, here's the list of all the good, all the bad. Here are my recommendations for how to address the bad in the new year. If that happens, if you hit this tier and meet your quota of good, these are the kinds of gifts your kids can expect." I don't know. Maybe Santa has some room for expanding his operation just because, the amount of effort that would usually go into creating that kind of that level of communication, that much information, getting that out to parents. Maybe it could be an opportunity for growth.
think that's right. Not only what more can the LLM do for Santa, but also remember that if the letters and things are stuff that the elves are doing right now, and the
Mm-hmm.
LLM can do that instead, then the elves' manpower or elf power can then go into, offering new services that they haven't had before. And so it really does allow him to expand operations, both sort of automated and manual.
Well, and probably put more quality into the toy construction, because I know they've had to kind of skip some of that, and there's been some QA issues. So really, the elves are best at building things. So if they can write less letters and focus on building high quality gifts, it's a win-win.
Right. Well, and let's not forget, this isn't a new question. In the past, when Santa approached us about kind of automating his handwritten list and trying to get that into an app, there was some concern from the elves, and we were able to address that. Many of them were able to then spend more time working on toys, which most of them said they preferred, but there was a small group that really wanted to grow and learn and be more hands-on with the development side. So they've been actively working on development and testing and improvements and new features. We've gotten to work alongside them and train some of the elves. So I think it's just worth mentioning. Yes, this concern has come up in the past of how might this displace elves, but we've been able to address that in the past and kind of find a path forward. So I think that can continue even if there is some concern around AI. We've had success up until this point with helping make sure elves still land somewhere that they feel really really good about themselves and getting to do things they enjoy.
And I think they still will be involved in the non-technical aspects of it. But I mean, you're saying, we've trained them on the development side, but they'll still be active in the non-technical aspect of it, because there's outreach, there's everything that they need to do for the communities that don't have as much technology.
Right. And like you were saying, there's a need to still make sure areas where internet isn't as available or things like that, where there's still kind of a more handwritten approach, that we're still supporting those areas.
I don't think we talked about, because last year or the project that we worked on before, we were utilizing Twitter, weren't we? Or X, formerly known as Twitter.
Formerly known as Twitter.
So now that we're moving over, or that he's moving over to more LLMs, what are we doing? Was he sunsetting that? Or are we integrating it?
I think it's integration. Yeah, it's more of how can we improve what's already there?
Okay.
Because there's still an aspect of social, taking in data from online sources and putting that into the system for ranking children's behavior.
Okay. Because we could have the traditional, and we have X, formerly known as Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, we were only using that, or thinking about using that, to really analyze sort of sentiment and children's behavior. But maybe we can expand on that and also help Santa out, where he can sort of use the LLM to analyze the sort of trends that are going on. And so he can start sort of pre-planning for what toys he wants to build based on the searches and things, and TikTok videos that are going viral that he sees, that he knows kids will want and request, so he can be better prepared for when the sort of surge requests come in. I wonder if we can influence that a little bit too. Like the things he has a lot of stock of, he can sort of put viral videos out there, and then all of a sudden people want it. And so he's creating that demand for the stuff that he has.
Also,
maybe for a later
during the year,
Santa
or
TikTok
maybe
channel,
get into the fall,
we're a
he
little
starts
late.
to surge.
That's a whole campaign about unboxing after Christmas.
Yeah, before also. That's all the year, right? You always have those unboxing videos about everything.
But kids tend to have a very recency bias, right? So I guess you try to influence it, maybe fall into the winter time, early so that's what they immediately want to ask for, and that's what he knows he has on in inventory.
And retro is in now, so if we take a look at what things Santa has in stock from the 80s, maybe we can start sort of pushing that to help him clear out his inventory.
I don't think there's any Cabbage Patches or Pet Rocks left.
Yeah, that is another side of things. So most of what we've worked on with Santa and with the Three Kings has been kind of the outward facing, getting gifts into the hands of kids, communicating with them or with their parents, letting their parents report on their behavior, things like that. But yeah, there's a whole other side of things and I know there is interest. How can we help Santa optimize, kind of the more behind the scenes operations of managing toys, workload, how to best allocate? Because some toys are easy to make. You just have one or two elves working on it, but some are much more technical or you need a larger workforce to produce just one larger toy, whereas some of the smaller ones might be more simple. So there's a whole other side of automating for inventory and assessing demand, assessing what's popular, finding the right fit for what kid gets what toy. That's a whole other side of things that has been mostly kind of all up in Santa's head, and trying to help him get that more, documented and out there and streamlined, I think would be really, really helpful.
So
Yeah,
are
there's a
we
whole
saying in
supply chain.
January we need to do roadmap planning with
Mm.
Santa
Yes. The
and the
problem
Three
is,
Kings?
so Santa really only works 1 month out of the year.
Right.
So our one
That's
chance
big.
to work with him is in December, because that's when he's, this stuff is top of mind. Otherwise, he's, at the beach drinking Coca-Cola.
Hmm. I don't blame him. Some good
Right.
stuff. So like December 26th through 28 is probably prime time when the feedback is fresh in his mind, and he'll
Right.
probably have a lot of stuff to discuss, right?
Well,
So
and the
maybe that's when
challenge
we
is
kind of.
that's when a lot of our team is off. So finding, resourcing, that's Pam's nut to crack right there, for who's able to be on those meetings and making sure people still get the time off they need around
I
Christmas
mean,
time.
if it's an on-site and we get to go to the North Pole during Christmas, I'm okay with that.
No, the plan is to go to the beach with Santa and make the road and do the road mapping right there.
Without
Oh, in
without making
January.
him
Okay.
feel like he's working too much. Yeah.
Right.
We don't want to interrupt his vacation either.
Right.
So there's like a whole sort of supply chain and ERP planning side of this that we haven't even ventured into, that
Mhm.
maybe is something for another day. I think he still needs help sort of optimizing the day of logistics, right? December 24th and
Right.
25th logistics.
Well, and if this meeting with the Grinch has taught us anything, it's that there are still other competitors out there that are looking for opportunities to kind of make their way in, and whether that's with a new approach, or, a startup kind of vibe where they're, getting in there with something new. They're leveraging AI before we can help Santa get his AI going. So I think being aware of that there's still a need to kind of differentiate himself, even though he may be the guy on top right now, he wants to stay relevant. So wanting to keep that top of mind and make sure that we're supporting Santa as our primary client in this industry. Um,
So we need to sort of caution him that instead of sort of being very open, if there are people like Mr. Grinch wandering around, he needs to sort of have his stuff be a little more closed and proprietary, right? So having
Potentially, yeah.
sort of a Santa AI product that we built from like a Santai, that basically, helps him hold on to his information, that, can't get intercepted or used maliciously.
Well, and that's a concern with a lot of these AI tools, is data leakage or access to sensitive data. So yeah, wanting to keep that top of mind too, as we're looking at these solutions and making sure, yeah, if Santa's putting in this information and then somehow it gets out, that's bad news for him.
Yeah, I mean he
So
has so much PII, right? He's got so much. I think this is definitely is a close. This is not any kind of model that is going to be publicly available.
no
So,
way.
And I think it's still, all this stuff is still kind of in its infancy. Like as far as, I know in my personal use, it's a very like trust but verify. Like I'll get information out of an LLM, but it still needs like a human or an elf in the loop to, really like suss it out before you actually work on it. So I think these are still tools that aid Santa, aid his workforce, but they're not, it's not fully automating, just set it and forget it. We're not there yet.
Oh, by the way, Elf in the Loop is the new version of Elf on the Shelf.
Mm-hmm. It is.
You heard it here first.
So do we have because we're right, it's early December 4th, right? So we have about 20 days. Were there any deliverables? I mean, I know we'd been talking through some of the ideas on how to make things better and make sure that we're protecting data. And we started this with Mr. Green, the Grinch, but I want to make sure that we're covered on, was there anything that we needed to be following up with Santa about on his deliverables or on our deliverables before Christmas Eve and before January 6th for the Three Kings?
I mean, I think they want to know, from what I understand right now, they've seen how things are kind of moving in the realm of AI. So they're wanting at least a response, like what's the plan, kind of a thing. It may not be able to be in the works before this Christmas. There may be some, maybe a small test pilot program we could do with a few things here and there. But I think mostly they're saying, hey, things are happening and we haven't thought about this yet, and we're confident that our competitors have. What are we going to do? How can we respond to this? Because that did come up. He didn't say much about it. I think Mr. Grinch said GPT stood for like Grinch, piracy, something like that. Anyway, but anyway, it is clear that Santa's competitors are leveraging this technology, and I think they're recognizing more and more like, oh, we need to figure this out. So having some responses ready for them. Hey, here's where we can move forward with this, especially over the summer when Santa's off, but the elves aren't, and they're working, having some systems in place to help that go more smoothly.
I mean, I think 20 days is not enough time to build a full-blown LLM that, he can rely on fully for the happiness of the world's kids, right?
Even
That's a
with the
little,
even with the Christmas magic
yeah, it's a little
incorporated into that
much.
effort. Yeah.
But what I would say is maybe we can suggest the POC that we can do to show him the power of it, that he runs alongside as sort of a validation to see how well it performs to the actual, his normal routine. And then after Christmas and after January 6th, they can evaluate and keep running it and training it to see how well it is. And then for next year, maybe we do have a full-blown LLM that is fully dependent now that he can use to run his gig.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably training a full-blown LLM from scratch is a bigger fun, huge endeavor. But probably what we can suggest is to start with Jetpack, the component that we have for the toolkit, and just show them what you can do with that, so that can at least get rolling the conversation on their side. So what's possible, instead of just tackling the whole problem from the root, because that's like a too big of an endeavor for a POC, I guess.
Well, that is true. So as of right now, all of the stuff we've been working on for Santa is more customer face, or I guess child and parent facing.
Yes.
But we do have a whole suite of services available for that supply chain management, and that, the whole other side of things that we've been discussing, that, we've mentioned it to him, but I don't think he fully, we haven't given him a full like walkthrough. I'm not sure if he recognizes the areas where we could help him with that. So that would be good to follow up with as well.
Maybe like now that we've got a few years under our belts with him, like he'll be more open to that. Maybe that's a demo of all, because we've made a lot of progress there too. So maybe a demo of what we've got in the supply chain space will kind of really open his eyes to areas he can improve that side of his operation. Because yeah, I think maybe now's the time to strike on that.
I think so. But now that we have that relationship solidified, and he trusts us, and the Three Kings trust us, and I don't know about the Grinch anymore.
Yeah, I think the where we've landed on that is we'll let Santa know that that's been he's approached us, and we'll let him know we're not going to work with him, but making him aware, hey, if we need to adjust some of the language we have on the website to make it not as clear that, here are all the things we're doing with you. He was at first very excited about us just sharing everything because the app was going so well, but I think we may need to revisit that and pull it back just so none of his intellectual property gets hijacked.
And like, maybe if the Grinch has a change of heart, we'll talk to him later.
Yeah, like a magnitude of 2 or something, right?
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like
at
that.
least.
Yeah. And then, I mean, then everyone can celebrate the holiday spirit. And I'm not talking about liquor.
Okay, yeah, so I think that all makes sense. But real quick, let's just all go around and make sure we're all on the same page as far as next steps go, at least. So starting off, for preparing to use an LLM, where do we need to start with that?
We can start collecting all the replies and stuff he's getting to feed into the LLM for next year, because that's a process we need to start.
Right.
We also need to update the Twitter/X APIs, because since last year,
That's what.
those API throttling and restrictions have been put in place. So we need to go update that so it continues to work. All right. So there's that. And then put a plan together that of a POC we can do in the next 20 days, and get his feedback. And so maybe we need to set up a follow-up session quickly with him. If he has feedback on that, we can iterate quickly on the POC plan as well.
Right. Okay, yeah. And just to be clear, we are planning to use our connected platform and some of the generative AI solutions we've put together there. we should be able to really quickly and easily get something put together to show Santa and the Kings to kind of give them an idea of what's possible as far as AI tools and using our jetpack tool. So that's all totally doable within the next 2 weeks or so. That shouldn't be a problem. So we can get started on that while also letting the Grinch know that we will not be
Yeah.
proceeding working with him.
Correct.
So basically, after talking to the Grinch, we know we won't want to do business with him, but there are
Right.
some things that we need to get updated for Santa and his apps and his tools.
Yeah. So we should follow up with Santa, let him know next steps, let him know that we heard his concerns about AI. Here are responses. Here's the plan. Here's what we're doing moving forward. Schedule a demo with him. Yeah, I think that would all be great.
And as far as this year's launch, I mean, we're good on our normal standard operations. I think we found a few bugs that were addressed, but those are ready to deploy. So I think for the most part, he's ready to go on our side for all of his staff.
Yeah. But I think him having some peace of mind knowing that we have a response for where we're going next will make it easier for him to focus on, the task at hand on this Christmas, knowing that he's in good hands moving forward after that.
Yeah, and any follow-up from that for the Three Kings as well, because that's a fast follow.
Right. In a lot of ways, Christmas is almost like a first trial run that the Three Kings are taking observation, taking notes. And that's another factor for making sure that they're still distinguishable between who's providing what, even though they are working very closely together at this point.
Yep.
And then we should go ahead and schedule sort of post-holiday meetings now, because it's going to be hard to figure that out once the event happens, and then getting on people's calendars and all that disappears is going to be difficult.
Gotta get on the big man's calendar while he can.
Yep. Thanks for connecting with us today. We had a lot of fun putting this episode together and just kind of playing with some of the questions that come up when you're in a more casual setting and talking about what a project may entail. And on that note, if you have a really complex problem that you're currently struggling to solve and would like some help, or you just have thoughts on what we talked about today, or maybe thoughts on what we should talk about next, please feel free to reach out to us at podcast@experoinc.com or on Twitter @experoinc. We'd love to hear from you, and we hope you have a wonderful holiday season. Thanks again for connecting with us.
Speaking of calendars, does anyone see this invite from a Jack Skellington? I don't know what that's about.
I saw that come in. I was like, yeah, I'm curious.
Mr.
An annual
Frost?
no, Jack Skellington.
From
I
The
think.
Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah, I think we're about to start. Are we
I
about
know,
to start a
and
new
Mr.
tradition?
Frost.
Oh,
Wait, which one's Mr. Frost?
Frost.
Jack Frost.
He's
Jack
Jack
Frost.
Frost. Jack Frost.
And then the whole Baby New Year. I mean, we can go on and on.
The big
And we
question
will.
is how many holiday specific episodes series are we gonna have to make, sub-series of connecting the dots?
Well, yeah, it's like Jack Skellington. Can that be Halloween or Christmas?
It's hard to say.
Yeah,
I think it's more of a Christmas.
I feel the same about Jack Frost. He looks pretty scary, but he's Christmas.
Christmas.
Yeah.
Well, and then there's the whole question of what's Frosty's role in all of this? I mean, he's
Yeah,
only
Frosty
even
the Snowman.
he's only even around for a few months out of the year. The rest of the time, I don't even know where he is. I mean, he might be at the beach. For all I
He's
know.
not at the beach for sure.
Like, he might be the beach.
He might be in the water.
He's one with the beach. Yeah.